All right, namaskar. Good morning, everyone, from wherever you are logging in from the world. Welcome to Connect One. My name is Jazz Sethi, and I am the founder and director of the Diabesties Foundation. And on behalf of my entire team and the entire organizing committee of Connect One, I welcome you to this very unique conference, online virtual conference on type 1 diabetes, driven entirely by people living with type 1 diabetes. So I just want to give you a brief about how this idea began. There's a beautiful quote that says, "Nothing about us without us." And normally, generally, when we have a lot of conferences, a lot of discussion about type 1 diabetes is done. But very often, we are not in that discussion. So we thought that why not do an entire conference that is on type 1 diabetes, on the condition that we are living with, and get it from a different perspective, get it from the perspective of those actually living with the condition. So about 3 weeks ago, we began this journey of Connect One. We have a beautiful organizing committee that involves a lot of patient groups, and they are Blue Circle Diabetes Foundation, Udan, Dia, Day, Diacare Trust, and Diabesties. So all of these patient groups came together on this journey to create a positive outlook on patient advocacy. So, what we are going to be hearing today is from a lot of persons with diabetes, caretakers, specialists, and educators to get a 360-degree view of what this condition actually means. So, I really hope you enjoy it. I would like to just start off with a few thank yous before I forget. Thank you to the entire organizing committee, all the patient groups. Thank you to our entire panel of advisors and the doctors who have supported this, even by just sharing it, participating in it, speaking in it, or just sort of encouraging us to do it. Your support really means the world. A big thank you to Dr. Hardik and his entire RX events team for ensuring a smooth conference. And finally, I would like to thank you for actually coming and participating in it. We have over 1,000 delegates from over 15 countries who have registered. So I'm very happy about that. And like I said, from wherever you are in the world, welcome to Connect One. I'm going to give it over to Indu a little later that she can tell you the entire flow of the day. But they say before starting anything special, you should have special people to start it with. And I have two very special people here with me today for the inauguration ceremony, for the opening ceremony. And I'm very grateful to them both for being a part of this. And I would like to introduce them now. Can we have the introduction slides, please? Starting off, we have with us Dr. V Mohan. Dr. V Mohan is the chairman and chief of diabetology at Dr. Mohan's Diabetes Specialty Center in Chennai, which is in South India, which is an IDF center of excellence in diabetes care. Dr. Mohan oversees a chain of 48 diabetes centers across 8 states of India and has over 500,000 registered diabetics in his care. He's also president and director of the Madras Diabetes Research Foundation, which is Asia's largest standalone diabetes research center. He has won several awards, and he has published over 1,200 papers. He's got the distinguished B.C. Roy National Award by the Medical Council of India. And for his extensive contribution in the field of diabetes, in 2012, Dr. Mohan was awarded the prestigious Padma Shri by the government of India. Dr. Mohan, welcome. Thank you for coming and being a part of this.
Thank you, Jazz. Thank you for that kind introduction. And I would like to congratulate you and the team from Diabesties and the organizing committee for putting up this great show of people with type 1 diabetes, about type 1 diabetes. And you're quite right that very often in conferences, not only we don't look at the point of view of type 1 diabetes, but type 1 diabetes itself is sometimes forgotten because it's like 1 to 2% of all the patients that we see. And although if you look at the severity, the problem it causes, it's equal to as much as type 2 or if not more. But because the sheer magnitude of the problem, that there are only 2% of all people who have type 1 diabetes, very often from conferences is even left out. And only type 2 diabetes is focused on. And if we discuss about it, it'll be about, some esoteric thing from the diabetologist's point of view. and we quite often don't get the patient's point of view. So I'm very glad that more recently this trend is changing. We are getting people with not only type 1 diabetes, but there are other rarer causes. For example, you take maturity onset diabetes, the young MODY, another monogenic form of diabetes nobody knows about. In the American Diabetes Association meeting last year, when there was a topic on monogenic diabetes, we had 5 speakers. The last speaker was a person with MODY, and she was asked to give her perspective. So I think things are changing, and you're quite right when we say that we have to hear your voice. And therefore, I'm very privileged to be part of this. And thank you for inviting me for this inaugural function. It gives me great pleasure to participate. I'd be happy to be involved in all your activities going forward, and wish you all the very best for the success of this program.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Mohan. That is so wonderful to hear, actually. And joining us with Dr. Mohan, we have Dr. Banshi Sabu. He is the president of the RSSDI for the term 2019-2020, president of AIAARO, which is the Indian Obesity Society, honorary secretary of Diabetes in Asia Study Group, honorary secretary of Diabetes India, honorary secretary of Indian Academy of Diabetes, launched a project which is Diabetes Free India by 2030, which tries to get down the prevalence of type 2 diabetes. And acknowledged by the Honorable President of India for that as well. He founded an NGO which is Diabetes Care India and the Indian Sweet Registry. And knowing Dr. Banshi, I look to him as a mentor, and I know his interest in type 1 diabetes is a lot, and he sort of supported all the work we do. He's completed a lot of public awareness programs under the Diabetes Care India banner, and he also launched the YLDI program 2 years ago, which I was fortunate enough to be a part of, which is trying to get young leaders of diabetes from India. Dr. Banshi, welcome, and thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thank you, Jaz. Thank you for inviting. First of all, it's really great pleasure, to be with you. And then to share the dash with Dr. V Mohan. It's really a great pleasure, And before a few days only, I was listening Dr. V Mohan and you on Facebook Live. And again on the, I think immediately after 2-3 days, Dr. Mohan was talking to your parents also.
That's right.
And I don't know whether you remember or not, before 10 years or rather before that, I used to call Jazz and Geet both in many of my type 1 diabetic awareness program. And
right.
He used to be the chief guest, and we used to call Jazz. And, the Geet was like that before those many years, 10 or 12 years before also. He was the one who used to tell that, my daughter is type 1. And that type of motivational message he used to give to all type 1 kids. And I'm sure, Jay, you also remember that, we used to do a program in Ahmedabad Management Association. Yes. And I still continue to do those type 1 awareness program, as you know that. Now you come there as a motivator or a motivational speaker for that. Just to inform Dr. V Mohan that, I was very, very, interested in type 1 care. Because, sir, when we were doing our MD residency, in our civil hospital where the type 1 clinic, dedicated diabetes clinic was opened by Dr. O.P. Gupta long back, 40 years before we have a diabetes clinic in our civil hospital, BJ Medical College. And twice a week, we used to attend the diabetes clinic as those who are interested in diabetes, and we used to treat. And now it is every day. So we used to see 300, 400 patients, and many of them were type 1. And the children, neither they were taken care by the pediatrician, and they all has to come to the diabetes clinic. And physician routine OPD, they were not taking care. And at that time, only the insulin was available, like NPH and regular, and glipizide and metformin was for type 2 diabetic patients. But what used to, when I had gone in a rotation in renal department, in a kidney department, I had seen many diabetic patients who were having kidney problem. And then in my starting of my practice, I had never seen somebody who is a type 1 and coming to me after, 30, 40 years of type 1 diabetes. Like I could not see a 50-year or a 60-year male person who had come to me and told that, see, I am the type 1 since last 30, 40 years. When I went to the steno clinic for there was a program from the Novo Nordisk, and I was there for 2 to 3 weeks. There they used to run even a type 1 geriatric clinic also. So I mean, somebody who is having type 1 since last 50 years or 60 years, those type of patients used to come. So in 2003, I had put one advertisement on a newspaper. Those who have type 1 diabetes, insulin taking, I have not written. Those who have taken insulin since last 40 years, we
Come
want
to
to
me.
felicitate, and we want to felicitate them on World
Yeah.
Diabetes Day. And I could get only one person who was residing here in the L colony only. And that is the story. And then I started a type 1 awareness program. And then more than 10 sub-clinics I started in Gujarat. And today, I mean, I'm very, feeling proud also that we are running successfully dedicated type 1 clinic in Ahmedabad. I have data of 2,000 patients across the Gujarat. I have seen, every month we have program for type 1 diabetic patients in Gujarat. So somewhere in Surat or Rajkot, I have a team of more than 6 persons who are working only dedicatedly for type 1. And I don't charge for type 1 diabetic patients. That I'm sure Jez knows it, that since last 20 years, we have not taken any money from any type 1. Even somebody is very affording, we tell that, can you please give this money and we will give free insulin to someone else. And then I became the part of CDIC, I became the part of SPAD, I became part of Life for Child, IDEA project. Today I am the nodal center for that SPAD suite registry. If you remember, Dr. Mohan, I told you long back that we started for the suite registry. And in suite registry, 1,700 patients regularly in follow-up. So I mean, in suite registry outside the Europe, I was the first center outside the Europe, and then I became the nodal center for complete Asian countries in Southeast Asia. And today we have outside the Europe one of the biggest center where we are giving the data of more than 1,700 patients regularly. Unluckily, all our patients does not have the autoantibodies, but still we have for many more. The C-peptide level we try to get for everyone. And, I had become part of your diabetes young registry, and then I tried to send some of the patients. And I still believe there may be many more Modi genes, which, we are not identifying, because clinically they have typical Modi, as you were talking just before some time. But unluckily, either we are not having the genetic analysis of everyone, or we are not identifying them. But many of my patients now doing better. When we started, like for those patients with CDIC and all these, they used to keep their 11, but the Jazz, thanks to you and the educational program of all our team, now average A1C of that had come around 8.5. Still not great. I mean, Mohan will still say,
No, but
it's not great.
no, but that is definitely it's a thing. And also talking about education, I think that's the correct point that we've come to. That talking, even Dr. Mohan, what you said, that people are not aware about Modi. People don't know the different types. I think even diabetes insipidus, we're talking about Modi, LADA. It's not something that people are aware of. And that's the idea of the education. I remember, I think Dr. Banshi, you had given me an analogy once that type 1 diabetes is like a table. And there are 4 legs of a table. That is insulin, diet, monitoring, and exercise. But the tabletop which connects it is education. Because
that's
I think
education.
Dr. Mohan, you also agree that you can give a child insulin, but it's not enough unless you tell them what to do with it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I would like to know your views about what do you think in India, specifically in India, I would like to say, because I know of the work happening abroad as well. It's a little better than us. I wouldn't say very much better. But I have found personally that in India, we're lacking type 1 education, even if we can give the child insulin. What are your takes on that?
Yeah, I think I could not agree more. And in India, particularly because you have so many competing systems of medicine. And what people are not willing to accept, there is a general notion that allopathic medicine is bad. Whatever you do in allopathy is bad. It'll produce kidney damage, produce cancer, it'll produce this. Although there's not a single report of that in the world literature or Indian literature, I don't know how this myth spreads. So if you take this, you will get that. If you take sulfonylurea, you will get kidney. You take metformin, you will get this. You take insulin, you will get cancer. If you take this, this is what is in people's mind. So all the time, people are looking forward to say, how do I stop this insulin? Not realizing that that's your oxygen. It's like asking, how can I replace oxygen with something else? You can't. For breathing, you need oxygen. For life, you need oxygen. So for life, you need insulin. Type 1 patients, unfortunately, that insulin mechanism gets switched off and they have come to zero in insulin production. So just like you need water to survive, just like you need oxygen to survive, just like you need food to survive, you also need insulin to survive. So that one particular message, if every person in India knows, we have 1.3666 billion people. If the entire 1.366 billion people in India know that one fact, that in type 1 diabetes, you need insulin, that's a great advantage. Because the first thing that people say is, oh, if I take insulin, I'll get addicted to it. If I take this, of course, with type 1, they quickly realize when they stop, they'll go into decay, they'll go into, so they quickly realize that. But even so, they think they're doing something wrong, oh, I have to inject this and it's bad. And so I was discussing in the program with you as well as with your parents that I have seen that because I've been in this field now for 49 years or so, almost 7,000, 8,000 type 1s are registered in our own clinics. So with that, if we start, if you start from the day one when they are diagnosed, I see 2 or 3 different types of parents. One is the parent who accepts it, who trusts you. And once you talk about insulin, they say, whatever you say, we will do, doctor. And then they have such a balanced approach towards the child, neither overprotecting nor underprotecting and being careless about the child and not caring for the child. They have the right approach. Such children like you blossom and become leaders, and they make a mark for themselves. Then we have the other extreme of people who, partly driven by socioeconomic status and partly, I don't blame them, they can't even afford insulin. But even if you give them free insulin, they are still, this is a big burden for us and so on. And so such children, they don't, first of all, you'll see them, they'll be short. Because why? They're not taking the insulin half the time. I've had very sad instances of where I burnt my fingers. I give insulin free to people, and that insulin, that father will go and sell it, and then he'll go and drink. And then he has to keep the child alive, otherwise he won't get next month's insulin. So half the time he'll give the insulin, so the child just remains alive. And then half the time, the other insulin, he goes and sells and drinks with it. And you have to threaten the child and say, if you ever say this, I will beat you and so on. So that child is so scared when he comes to the clinic, and these are all true stories. So that's the other extreme of parents. And then in between, of course, we have some who show some interest, something, but the commitment is not there. They're always looking for, can Siddha treatment help? Can Unani help? Can homeopathy help? Can Ayurveda help? And all the time we have, there's a promotion. I'm not saying anything against those systems. I don't belong to any of those systems. I have no right to talk about any of the systems. But when you're talking about type 1 diabetes, you must understand that none of those systems have insulin. And if they give insulin, there's nothing allopathic about insulin also. Insulin is a life-saving drug. So if a Siddha man or an Ayurveda man or a homeopathy man or some other system man, naturopathy man gives insulin, that's good. There's nothing allopathic about it. There's nothing Ayurvedic about it. So they can also give insulin. But insulin is insulin. Till we find something else, we may never find something else. We can only find different methods of giving it. One point that everyone listening in should understand, because people keep blaming us. 50 years you're doing research in this field. Have you cured diabetes? What have you done? And so on. So I keep telling them 50 years I've been in the field. But only 50 years before that insulin came. It's not even 100 years, only 99 years since insulin came. 2021 only we are going to. So from the day I started, 50 years, half the time after insulin discovered, I've been in this field. And my father was there much before that. My father was born the year when insulin was actually introduced in the world. 1923 is the time when he was born. So he was born at the time when insulin was introduced into the world. So only 100 years it's been there. And I just tell people, go back to 100 years ago. A child with type 1 diabetes lived only for 3 months at the most. And most people, I've known of cases where they send them off, giving them a one-way ticket and send them off to Italy or send them off somewhere. So they don't want to see the child dying. They buy a one-way ticket, put them into something and then send them off. These are all true stories which have occurred. 6 months was a luxury. 1 year was unheard of. Nobody can live 1 year. Then it's not type 1 diabetes. You can live 1 year without insulin. From there, Banshi talked about people living at older people. Banshi, I've got people who are now in their 70s.
I know, sir. You told on that day. I know.
I've got, no, type 2 separate, but I've got
type 1 also.
Across 75 years, 78 years. So one coming up to 80 years of age. I've got many now who have finished 50 years of diabetes, 55, 60, 65 years, started when they were children, and now doing extremely well. They don't have kidney problem, they don't have eye problem, they don't have anything. They're leaders. Some of them have taken part in so many webinars, so many management sessions, so many things. So there is a group of people who have now survived for 50, 60, 70 more years in India itself. Of course, the world record is about 90 years. We had this man, if you Google, you'll find him. He died only a few years ago. He started insulin the year after insulin was discovered. And then
wow.
from then he lived for 90, 94, 95 years. I think he died at the age of 96 or 97. Bruce or something, I forget his name. He was in US. And he has lived for more than 90 years with type 1 diabetes. So all that it's showing is insulin can make you live long. So that one message through Connect One should go. And I think people
Yes.
like you should come out. Banshi was very right. Your father and mother did not shy away from saying you had type 1 diabetes. Neither did you. And because of that, that stigma goes away. When you go and say, I've got type 1 diabetes, so what? I've got type 1 diabetes. Just like I have thyroid problem, I have type 1 diabetes. Or one hand is gone because it's born like that. Doesn't mean I'm deformed. That's how God made me, and that's how it is. So once you do that, then there's no hiding, no stigma, no this, no that, and your life goes on like a normal person. I think that should be the message of Connect One, and everybody should be able to come out and say, look, I've got this. And what you must remember is that when you do that, you're truly inspiring others. See, everybody may not have 15 years, 10 years, 14 years, 20 years, like some of you would have. There'll be others who have been diagnosed only last month. And they're wondering, is this child going to live until the next birthday? Is this child going to do this? Can my child, go to school? Can my child get a job? Can my child marry? Can my child get a child? Can my child work somewhere? Can my child run a marathon? And all these are questions which come. So when among your group, you have people who have done all of that, and they come and they say it, what more inspiration do you know? So when you talk about education, I think that is the most important thing. Of course, pumps and closed loops and this and that are all very important. But that's for a very small section of people. People cannot afford it, number one. Number two, they cannot understand it. And simply by taking those who live for that 60, 70, 80 years, who I told you, none of them were on pump. Simply the same what Banshi said, this NPH insulin, regular insulin, they all started with bovine insulin. Then went porcine insulin. Human insulin came only in 81. Okay. So before that, what were they doing? They were only taking ordinary insulin, which we call as dirty insulins later. That is the insulin which kept them alive. So
and that too in the glass syringe, which they have to boil and this and that.
Big things like, go and poke yourself, so painful. You have to boil it.
Yeah.
You get infections with that. We didn't have glucose measuring, that came, glucometers came with urine sugar examination, Benedict solution. That is how they lived. All those people lived at that time, and they're still alive. They're still alive. I can bring them all to you and show them. They're such an inspiration. We gave them a gold medal when they completed. When they finished 25 years, we gave them silver medal. When they finished 50 years, we gave them gold medal. Now some are going to their diamond, celebration.
I'm waiting for my silver medal now.
You're going to get it soon.
You will get before it also,
I think what
you inspiration to others.
You said is absolutely, and I think if everyone listening takes away that message, not to fear insulin, not at all to fear insulin, make that your primary treatment, because it is your primary treatment. And I think what he said was very true, but the fact that in a time right now, we should, of course, assess where we are in history, right? What Dr. Mohan said was right. Like around 80 years ago, there was no insulin. It was a death sentence. Type 1 diabetes was a literal death sentence. So we've come very far. And yeah, I'm sure there's a lot more to discover along the way. But as and when we've got the luxury of insulin, let's use it. Let's not shy away from it. And I think in today's conference, we've got amazing speakers, Dr. Mohan and Dr. Banshi. Let me just inform you, we've got speakers who have entire type 1 family who's speaking. We've got people who have diabetic alert dogs. We've got people who are looping. We've got people who are talking about mental health. So, and these are all people living with type 1 diabetes. Yes. So today, it's going to be a great day. We're going to cover a lot of topics. Hopefully, some people might find interesting, some other people might find interesting. But like I said, nothing about us without us. And that was what sort of drove this idea of Connect One. So before I let you both go, I have a small game to play because it's a type 1 conference. It's a little fun and little musty wala game. It's called 3-second rule. Okay. Now, basically, I'll give you a category and I'll play the round with you as well. I'll give you a category. For example, let me say fruits as an example. So Dr. Mohan, you will start. I'll go next. Dr. Banshi, you will go third and we'll rotate like this. You have only 3 seconds. Okay. No cheating. Only 3 seconds you have. You have to say one of in the category. So Dr. Mohan, let's say mango. I'll say apple. You'll say banana. This, that. The person who can't.
Just say the name of a fruit, is it?
Correct. The category, whatever I give.
Okay. Fine.
Okay. And if you're late, then you're not out, but just we go to the next category. Okay. So the first category is brand names of insulin. Okay, I'm going to loose in this.
NPH.
Tresiba.
Lentus.
Actrapid.
No Rapid.
Monotard.
Epidra.
Tragene.
Novolog.
Humalog. Okay. Glulisine. So I'm giving both the trade name.
So you are giving brand name, and because he's asking brand name and the trade
name. I'm out of names only.
Yeah.
So the Lupi insulin. So I can give you so many Bezalog. So we can continue to do it.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
So we have an ICO. The good news is, for those of you who want to know, there's an ICO deck insulin coming, which is a once weekly insulin.
Yes, once a day.
Trials have started. Oh, wow. We are part of it. And the first
for type 1?
For type 1. And
it is for type 1, type 2 both.
Anyone can do once weekly insulin, but it will still be only the long-acting one. You know,
not the bolus.
One has got longer and longer. From NPH to, Lantus to Tresiba. Now, Tresiba is more than 24 hours. Now, this is going to be 1 week, 1 whole week. So that means you have to do only the basal, you don't have to take every week. Basal take every week is sufficient. Every day you don't have to take. Whereas the bolus you take every day. Okay.
But sir, for bolus also, Dr. Mohan, now we have a clinical trial of oral insulin. We have
that's also
which is an inhaled insulin. So at least the number of pricks can be reduced by giving a longer acting insulin, and the short acting can be covered by those.
Correct.
Amazing. So we have a lot more to do. Maybe one day there'll also be a cure. Who knows?
Oh, there will be, definitely.
Or maybe a vaccine or something.
From vaccine, it could be through stem cells, because stem cell converting into beta cell is nearly there. Nearly there. There are little gaps here and there. For example, I've made it in my own lab. In my own lab at MDRF, we have converted stem cells into insulin cells. We have shown that it works. We show that in culture, it reduces glucose. The problem comes in scaling up. Now, when you start scaling up, limited in a lab, this one, petri dish, you can make it. But when you want to scale it up to a lot, then impurities, this, that start coming, number one. Number two is, suppose you make that insulin from stem cells, and then you got millions and millions of cells, you put it into the body. How can you prevent it from overdoing it? So suppose it starts producing by itself, you can't switch it off. You already put it into the body. So we cannot experiment with human beings. Yeah, so we cannot experiment with human beings. Suppose somebody dies of hypoglycemia, then what do you do? Yeah. So these are the challenges why we cannot just bring it. Otherwise, bringing insulin through some other, just like they produce human insulin, to produce insulin through some stem cell technology is not very difficult. That is how it's going to go. I don't think pancreas transplantation or islet cell transplantation is going to be there for millions and millions of people, because you need millions and millions of pancreas. So you'll have to get it from stem cells, but we are getting there. I think in 4 or 5 years, we might have a breakthrough.
It's a fascinating world.
Jay, if in next 5 years the cure will come, you will not get the silver and gold medal from Mohan.
Oh, then she still get it.
You will be cured from the diabetes.
The idea is that she lived with it, from that time. Let's make separate diamond medals.
Oh, I like that. Okay. It was amazing. Great talking to both of you. And before we inaugurate, we have a special message from a very special guest. He has shown us that type 1 diabetes does not get in the way of achieving your dreams. He has led by example. He has many hats, from being on radio to being a VJ to having his own podcast series. And of course, he's our favorite IP health host on TV. And very excited to share a special message from Gaurav Kapoor, who has given us a small 1-minute message for all our people listening. So, Ritika, can we please have that message? Amazing.
A big hello to everyone who's at Connect One today. I'm Gaurav Kapoor. Thank you for having me and letting me say a few words. I won't take too much of your time. I just wanted to convey my appreciation and, of course, send you my love to all of you who are fighting the good fight here and are collected here today. The Diabesties Foundation, Blue Circle Diabetes Foundation, Udan, Dia, Day, Diabetes Care India, to all of you. I just want to say that our biggest ally is awareness, and all of you are doing a fabulous job in spreading that awareness. I feel that that is, as if not on some occasions, more important than medication. and also the biggest enemy that we have, which is misinformation. And all of you are fighting that as well. Of course, we are in a very difficult time. It goes without saying, during COVID, diabetics are a little more affected than people without. So that's an added layer of not difficulty, but an added layer of battle that strong people will always relish. And I'm sure all of you do that as well. So I hope you have a great day. I hope there is an open exchange of ideas. I hope we can come up with some positive steps today. And I look forward to hearing those. And I also look forward to connecting with all of you one-on-one in person really soon. Yeah, seems like a distant pipe dream right now, but I hope that we can beat this pandemic really soon. And the next time we all collect and connect is in person. Have a great day. Sending you all lots of love and strength upward and onward.
Yay! Awesome. Thank you, Gaurav, and for that. And as he rightly said, hope we can connect in person soon. And a big thank you to Dr. Mohan and Dr. Sabu for being a part of this inauguration ceremony and launching our Connect One with such amazing conversation. So for the final launch, Dr. Banshi and Dr. Mohan, will you together say with me, connect with us? Okay, so I'll say 1, 2, 3, and then we all will say connect with us. Okay? Okay, Rita, can you keep the slide ready for the movie to play? So we have, all right. Are we ready? Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Connect with us. Yay! Thank you. This was our Avengers theme playing and, full power launch. Thank you. Thank you both so much. I really appreciate it. Very grateful to both of you, and thank you for the support. Thank you for the support that you guys give.
Yes, I will be listening also in today, to many of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Because Anju is coming later on.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you both so much.
And the whole team. Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Mohan. Bye.
Yeah, thank you, Banshi. Honor to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.